Good morning, and welcome. You are tuned in and listening to Back Talk with Sharona. I am your host, and my name is Sharona. That, of course, is Price Tag with Jesse J. Big show today. Happy Monday, by the way. Very excited to be on the air this morning. We took last Monday off. It is a holiday. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit with Jennifer Eakins in our final segment. Maybe not. We've got a lot to talk about. It's always amazing how things come together. I love it when a plan comes together, you guys. But first, before we get started, I should mention I'm so proud of myself that I actually remembered to do this. We are now partnered with Ultimate Sports Talk, so you can also catch our shows over at ultimatesportstalk.com. Happy to have that partnership. We semi-laughingly dubbed this the Sharona Hates on Katie Nolan show. Had an opportunity. Again, it's so weird how things come together. Last week was interesting for me, you guys. I got all up in my feelings about a lot of things. The Greg Hardy situation. Katie Nolan did a segment on that, and some very interesting things happened. We'll talk about that, and you'll get a sense of it as we get through the show. I had an opportunity to sit down this weekend and talk to a couple of women that I truly respect. I know that they'll keep it real with me. They will check me if I need to be checked. And Jennifer Eakins, who's coming on live with us this morning, too, I put her in that category as well. And she and I disagree on the topic of Katie Nolan and her segment. So happy to have her on live. We'll talk about that. First up, though, is Claire Mullins. We're going to be talking about the Greg Hardy situation. Greg Hardy, of course, coming back from his 4-game suspension for a domestic violence incident, which was what was really a series of incidents with his former girlfriend. We also talked some Houston Texans. Then in our second segment, I'll be talking with someone that I truly do admire and respect, Vashti Hurt. She is a co-host with me on Game Over with Vashti and Sharona. As it turned out, we tried really hard. We weren't able to get a show together for Friday, so I was really thankful that she had some time to sit down with me on Saturday and talk about pretty white girl privilege, Greg Hardy, and cultural appropriation. It's pretty amazing how women do get the crumbs. There's appropriation all over sports media, by the way. I mean, we know that. It truly is a copycat business. But you do see certain people try to take a thing and run with it. You're seeing that a lot right now with fantasy sports, by the way. Athletes who are now out of the game, don't have anything to do, and they see fantasy sports is popular, so they want to jump on that bandwagon and, in a sense, co-opt the work of many people who've been doing this for years and years and years and years and years. If you want to know how I feel about it, I'm not knocking it. I mean, I know it's a thing, right? This is the world that we live in. But Vashti had a lot of great things to say about Greg Hardy. She was on top of the Greg Hardy rap video, by the way, you guys, way before anyone else. So if you're not following her, if you're not checking out her website, Carolina Blitz, you definitely need to do that. We'll talk some Carolina Panthers and some college basketball with her as well. And then in our final segment, Jennifer Eakins is going to join me live. We'll talk about the matchup between the the Georgia Bulldogs and the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee finally was able to get a big SEC win. It felt good. I had forgotten what that feeling felt like. So I'm always happy to have Jennifer on. So we'll talk about that with Jennifer Eakins. We'll talk about the Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning, and we'll see. Jennifer's going to check me a little bit on Katie Nolan. I'm okay with that. We disagree. I'm still rolling with my pretty white girl privilege take on the whole situation. But let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna start with my interview with Claire Mullins. Claire is a fellow sister at the Sisterhood NFL Female. We talk about Greg Hardy. We talk about the Houston Texans. We talk about the putrid AFC South. So I was happy to talk to her. So here you go. All right, good morning and welcome back. I'm joined now by Claire Mullins, one of the 2 interviews I'm going to be pre-recording for this morning's show, and I'm so happy that I'm starting with Claire because, first of all, it's been way too long since I've talked to Claire, and Claire's been on this show before, and I love her, and she's my sister in every sense of the word, except blood. But you know, the family you choose, I mean, that's the real shit right there. So I'm always happy to have Claire on, and also it's pretty timely because unfortunately we were presented face to face with the Houston Texans quarterback dilemma, their quarterback situation on prime time on Thursday night. So Claire, welcome back to the show, and thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Sharona. And I always, it would be nice if it could be under better circumstances. But usually it's when crisis mode happens that I'm like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? Hey, what's going on? You know what I mean? I can get all the podcast invitations when the team sucks. So sadly, there's just a big old pile of suck happening. And, let's talk about it. It's actually very interesting. So.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, though. Did I say that? Did I say thanks for having me? Thank you for having me, my sister.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're recording this, by the way, Saturday morning, according to my time clock. It's around a little bit after 10:30 a.m. Central Daylight Time on Saturday morning, and I'm chilling. You guys, just to let you know how lame Sharona is. Sharona was in bed at 8:30 on a Friday night because she was exhausted, but so I'm kind of chilling this morning. We're going to start with Texans talk. We're going to talk about the Houston Texans, and we'll talk about the AFC South. And then, as we typically do, I like to talk to other women about what it means, what it's like to be a woman in the media, and we're going to touch upon the Greg Hardy situation. We'll get started with Texans. And, Claire, I'll tell you what I'm more surprised about than your quarterback situation, is how badly your defense sucks.
Girl, I swear. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I feel like everybody is in a place where it's not suited for their skills. And I've had this discussion with so many Texans fans. Everybody's like, blame Rick Smith, the GM. Blame Rick Smith. Well, every time the Texans put a coach in place, they give that coach final control over the roster. Mm-hmm. And so you're giving the coach control over the roster, and then the coach is putting people underneath him who are sticking those players in places where they're not going to excel, and it happens over and over and over again. So it makes no sense to me. I mean, and the penalties on defense are murderous. And some of them are totally bogus, but some of them are like legit, what the heck were you thinking? I mean, it's like your hands to your dang self, or, it's just like total mind, I don't know, shut down.
Well, and Claire knows I love her, and I don't think I have a current boo on the Houston Texans roster anymore now that Andre Johnson and
Swag.
Yes.
DJ Springer.
Yeah. So here's the thing about the Houston Texans defense that I have always said, and I'm not hating. I'm just saying they have long life to be extracurricular after the play. Yes. And you saw, and they've largely gotten away with it, but they did not get away with it Thursday night. That's for sure. And I don't remember how much they were penalized. It was a lot.
It was, I believe the last count was like 13 penalties for, I want to say, like 135 yards or something to that.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it was kind of ridiculous, for sure.
Yeah.
And, you get a couple where you're like, really, how is that a penalty? But then you get a lot and you're like, come on, quit being stupid. Quit being stupid. What's wrong with you? So,
the defensive backs were holding all night long. I mean, they were just mugging.
And negating huge. I mean, like Raheem Moore had 2 interceptions that were over.
Right, exactly.
And special
away
teams,
from the play.
Away from the play. And Keith Mumphrey had a punt return for, I don't know, like I think it was 40 yards or something crazy, and that was overturned by a block in the back. And it's just over and over these silly, aggressive play that don't affect the actual play that's being, made. They're negating things that could turn the game around for the team, and they're shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous and kind of crazy. So I guess the big news, and putting that in air quotes a little bit, Brian Hoyer named the starting quarterback of the week. Yay?
Look, man, there's no good option here.
I know, right?
I mean
that's the right decision, right?
Well, Bill O'Brien needs to gain some control over the position.
Yes.
I mean, okay. I'm going to give Bill O'Brien credit in that when he came along, Ryan Fitzpatrick, a very mediocre quarterback by all accounts, had the best season of his career, and he's getting pretty late in his career. He had the best season of his career under Bill O'Brien. Brian Hoyer has not played very much, but if you look at like all his completion rate, his yards gained per game, his touchdowns, he is having the best time on the field. I guess it's not really games, just the best times on the field under Bill O'Brien than he ever had in his career. He's pretty good at making mediocre quarterbacks a little better than mediocre. But what's this instability? And then he goes this week, Bill O'Brien, and he says the season is 11 one-game seasons that we have left. That's what he said in the media this week. So he's saying any quarterback could start any week. And I'm sorry, but the team needs to, A, be able to have someone to rally around. B, that quarterback needs to be secure that if he screws up, he's not going to get yanked for the other guy. And so then they start throwing, like, super short passes and dink and dunk and then handing the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, it just affects the whole play of the offense. So he needs
really
to find
does.
his guy and stick with them. Even if he sucks, stick with him. Stick with the least sucky guy. It's fine. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. I feel this way sort of about the Browns, too, although they seem to have settled in on, we could debate that, and we'll debate that in another segment. But, it's kind of Arian Foster, back on the field. What do you think about his performance so far? I mean, he's a lot healthier than I expected him to be, but the production is just not there. What do you attribute that to?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, he's got to get back into game shape, and, it is only the second game of his comeback. He had 77 yards, and he's catching the ball pretty well, except for the one pass that went through his hands that caused an interception for Ryan Mallett. But he's cutting pretty well. His yards per carry are what's low, and so he's getting most of his yards from catching the ball right now. I think his yards per carry were like 2.5 or 2.0 this past game, and so that's really not very good. But it's his second game back from basically tearing the muscle off of the bone in his groin area, and that's kind of a big deal. He came back way earlier than anybody thought. Yeah. So he's still, to me, he's still better than the options that are available behind him. And so, I guess it kind of is what it is.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised that they haven't done more at that position. They seem to be expecting Arian Foster to play forever. But I feel like I haven't gotten this out of you. Do you want it to be Brian Hoyer? Would you rather have Ryan Mallett, or are you just so fed up with all of the quarterbacks on the roster that you're just so over it?
I don't think it's going to make a marked difference either way.
Okay.
I think
sense.
Yeah, I don't care who it is. You pick one or the other. Flip a coin. I don't really care. I do feel like Brian Hoyer has a better demeanor. He has more control over the offense.
Yeah, I agree.
He's more controlled all the way around. He's less he's less, what's the word I want to use, reactive to things. He more gains control over the situation than Brian Mallett. And I think that's what this team needs right now, even though Brian Hoyer is that very stereotypical Texans quarterback who, when you need him to just not lose you the game, he finds a way to lose you the game.
Like Thursday night, right?
Yeah.
in fairness, that wasn't entirely his fault. He was about to get nailed and did get nailed.
He was. He was feeling the pressure very heavy, and that's one thing. But making that decision to lob that ball
that was
far,
boneheaded. That was so fucking boneheaded.
It was ridiculous. And I mean, and I was very open about my plans that night. The Astros were in the ALDS. I'm like, and it was a sad beginning. Arian Foster got knocked in the head. He had a concussion and went back on the field. It was all wobbly. I was like, this is sad. I can't watch it. So I went and watched the Astros ALDS. But I've gone back and I've picked clips. Oh, yeah, I was watching the Astros game most of the football game. And it's depressing at a certain point. And I've gone back and I've watched, what the plays that needed to be watched. I've rewatched the game. But I don't know. I mean, he had a really good game, Brian Hoyer, until that point. He was 24 of 31.
He did. He really did.
312 yards for a player who didn't start the game is pretty darn good. 2 TDs, both to rookie, first-time on the field guy, Jalen Strong.
Oh, my God. And let's talk about that guy. I mean, it was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's kind of – see, the knock on him coming out was that he had bad hands. Like, he wasn't able to hold on to the football. And that was the knock on him why he hadn't started the first 4 weeks. And then he gets in there and he catches like 2 essentially Hail Marys for, I don't know, super long touchdowns. And, I mean, it was just really good to see him go out there and produce like that. And get those, So, I don't know. It's an interesting time. I feel like the team is just in disarray and it's just not, I don't feel like it's being run correctly, and that's really sad because that I love me some Bill O'Brien, and I feel
I
really
was going to ask you that. You seem to be a little disenchanted. Is Bill O'Brien the guy or not?
I feel it's hard because last season he took a 2-14 team to 9-7, and some people will say, well, he already had great personnel on the team. Well, yeah, but he brought in a whole new system, and on the first year they went 9-7. Now we're looking at 1-4, and it just seems like there's so much just out of control on the field. And every time you see a play, I mean, he's just like, he puts it on him, and he takes responsibility, and that's fine. But people want results, and we don't want to see chaos out of the quarterback situation. And you're the quarterback guru, and you're Mr. Disciplinarian. Well, take a dang stand and put your guy in and stand by him. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, I think that would be my biggest criticism. I'm trying to think if there were any other, I suppose, personnel moves. I sense that I'm getting that from you, Claire, that the 2 biggest criticisms of Bill O'Brien are the personnel moves and the personnel decisions.
Yeah, it's
those are pretty big. I mean, that's pretty big.
I mean, if you go in negotiating your first NFL head coaching contract and you're like, I want control over the 53-man roster, and that's the product you put on the field, I have an issue with that. I'm sorry. I have an issue with that. I expect more. There's a GM in place who has many years of NFL experience in the front office. Let him do your job until you get your feet under you as a head coach, and then maybe you can negotiate taking over that aspect. But let someone else handle it and just do the coaching job. That's all I want. Let the coach coach, let the GM, and then we'll see how it happens if you do it the traditional way.
I do think that usually, generally speaking, that teams that separate those 2 functions are better. Well, look at Philly. I mean, Philly's struggling right now, too. Chip Kelly just, won that power struggle over personnel between himself and their GM, and, predictable results.
Yeah. And the thing is, you see, like, a Bill Belichick, he doesn't have a GM. Well, he's Bill frickin' Belichick, okay? Right. He's proven himself. If you're a Chip Kelly or an O'Brien, you don't have NFL experience head coaching. Why do owners give these gentlemen the power to say, I have to have control? If you're going to get me, I guess because the other teams want them and they feel like, well, this is the way that we can win them, is giving them that control. But it doesn't bode well, obviously, at least in the short term, for your organization.
That's something that the Belichick coaching tree is known for, though. Josh McDaniel did that, too. a huge flaming pile of rot in Denver, and we could go on and on and on, which we won't.
Yeah.
But I mean it's a real situation. The AFC South, look how fast is it. Oh girl, I can smell it from here.
It is nasty. It's like it's a landfill filled with like roadkill. I mean, I swear to God, it just stinks to high heaven.
Yeah. Is this the worst division in the history of football right now? I think it is.
Is it? Like literally, or are you?
I mean, just like,
okay.
Haha, okay.
Oh yeah, no, for real.
That's a Sharona made up stat, but it feels real.
Okay. Well, and whenever you have one team over 500 and the rest have one win, I mean that looks pretty bad. I mean, the Titans had a bye last week and the Jaguars haven't played this week, but I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
This is like...
But the Colts stink. Everybody knows it. They're the only team over 500. They've got 3 wins, but it's just because the rest of the AFC South is so stinky.
Yes. And they got their win, basically, over 2 AFC South teams that stink.
Yeah,
so,
right, exactly.
How much stink can we put out there? I mean, it's just like, what's the worst possible record that a team can win a division? That is what the AFC South will be this season.
For real. I mean, it is. It's, kind of sad. But, I mean, that's where it is. That's where it's at.
It sure is. Well, we're living it. And whoever sucks the least is the team that's going to the playoffs to, whatever, see what happens. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that the Colts are going to hold up in the playoffs if they're the team that goes, just because of the dissension inside of that building with Pagano and Grigson and all that. But, I just don't think that makes for – it may keep them in the play for the AFC South, but beyond that, I don't see them able to compete after the season.
Yeah. Can I ask you about the Andre Johnson revenge game or not?
You can ask me whatever you want to, guys.
Andre Johnson hadn't been doing anything until this last game. Was it a revenge game for him, do you think? Was he determined to put it on you?
Totally. I mean, I have zero doubt that. And, Pagano is the guy who – Pagano and Johnson have a history. And, he's been recruiting Andre Johnson since Andre Johnson went to Miami in college. So I think Pagano will try to help Andre Johnson in a situation to make Andre Johnson look good, even though, the first 4 games of the season weren't that great. Right. They were terrible, actually. They were terrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were. Most people had moved on in fantasy. I had. And as much as I love Andre Johnson, I was like, see you, boo, sorry.
Right. And I think another aspect of it is, Andre Johnson has been playing against Matt Hasselbeck for seasons upon seasons.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a little bit of respect and camaraderie going into this. And so Matt Hasselbeck, being older, being the grizzled veteran he is, can see it from Andre Johnson's perspective, like, hey, we're going to get you the ball tonight. Go out there, get open here. We're going to get you this ball. We're going to make you look good. So good for Andre Johnson. If I was there, I still would have booed because I don't care. I booed. Well,
man.
In Houston, you get this. In Houston, you get this crap about, I can't believe you guys are booing Andre Johnson after all he did for you guys. Man, he chose to be on the enemy team.
He's a traitor now.
He is the enemy. I'm sorry. And when he retires, put him in a Ring of Honor or whatever, and I'll cheer for him and say, thank you for all the years of production, Andre. But right now, as he's a player for the Colts, screw Andre Johnson, bro.
He's Brett Favre the way the Green Bay Packers fans saw him when he became a traitor.
Right.
This is the way it works, people. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Precisely, babe. Precisely. That's it.
Man.
So
that's it. Yeah.
That easy.
No, I understand that. All right, we got to talk about being a woman in sports media and the Greg Hardy situation. It's Saturday morning. I told you guys we're recording this. Douchebag Greg Hardy has apparently released a rap video, and I'm using air quotes on that and using rap video very extremely loosely. I'm aware of it. I'm chilling, you know. I'm not into having any, you know, I'm just chilling. Let's just put it that way. I haven't looked at it yet. Claire, are you aware of that? Have you looked at it?
I didn't even know about this rap video. I just thought we were, you know, maybe going to discuss, like, what was said, he said this week. But, yeah, I didn't know the rap video thing.
Well, yeah, that's enough, right? I mean, if that wasn't enough.
Yeah, he said some pretty stupid things.
He's an awful human being. He is just an awful, awful human being. And Jerry Jones is just as bad, if not worse. So let's talk about that. We won't get into this rap video since neither one of us has really paid any attention to it. I'm sure I'll have a lot to say about it Monday morning when I take on Katie Nolan, sports media's top princess. But, okay, so Greg Hardy.
Yeah.
Now a Dallas Cowboys, despite being convicted before a judge of some pretty awful allegations against his former girlfriend. First media opportunity, and he goes full douche, Claire. So, I mean, you never go full douche, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, it's kind of amazing, like, the fact that he just has apparently no qualms about what he did in the very recent past. I mean, this isn't like a 10 years ago thing. This is pretty darn recent.
Yeah.
So you throw a girlfriend on a bed or a couch covered in, like, assault rifles, and then you talk about going out for your first day, guns blazing. And then you objectify females in your conversations, and I don't know, it's just like, maybe put a muzzle on him and don't let him speak. I mean, is that possible? Can we do that? Because he's not making your kids look good. He doesn't make anybody respect.
I just want him out. I don't want. I am over Greg Hardy being in the National Football League. You know.
Yeah.
I'm over it now. I don't think this guy belongs in the National Football League. What the National Football League decides to do with Greg Hardy at this point is going to tell me everything that they think about women and about domestic violence. Point blank, period.
And we've gone on and on and on and on and on about the hypocrisy in the NFL with women. I mean, we can go, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month because no one knows about breast cancer and, you know, all the different organizations that, you know, treat or fight to get research for breast cancer. They're not getting the money. It's Komen. And Komen gets, 8% of all the profits of the NFL's pink crap. So the NFL is just like this blowhards to me. If the sport of football did not go through the NFL and the players and the teams that I love did not go through the NFL just has me, by the balls. They just do. And I hate them, and I love their product, and I hate them.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, I'm the same way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing they need to do is swap this guy in pink.
Yep.
And put him. If Greg Hardy, first of all, his ass doesn't need to be in the National Football League.
No, it just doesn't.
I'm telling you right now, NFL. I'm watching. If you care at all about women and about domestic violence, his ass needs to be gone.
Just let him go.
But
find a reason, let him go.
The last thing that the NFL needs is for Greg Hardy's abusing, awful ass to be out on the football field in pink. I will absolutely go ballistic if that happens.
Right. Yeah, don't even try to make it like he gives one shit about women and their health or their whatever. No, don't. Because that's just the most hypocritical thing. I don't know. In a league full of hypocritical things, that's the most hypocritical thing.
Exactly. I mean, it's revolting.
Yeah, it is. And it's just disgusting. And they support it. And then Jerry Jones tries to come out and starts talking about, trying to defend what Greg Hardy said. He starts talking about Elizabeth Taylor and her divorces and how that is a professional.
He's just batshit crazy.
He has gone insane. He's lost it. He is senile, and he's totally just sexist. And he
Well, did you catch
Right.
the part? Did you catch the part about we can tell whether you're a lawyer or a shop girl?
Oh my God! And yeah, I know. And
I
then,
mean, as if.
And Tom Brady must be a pretty great guy because his wife is so beautiful. What the fuck? I mean, if you have to bleep me, but what the fuck? Your wife is beautiful, so you're a human being. Jesus Christ. I can't.
I just can't even. I can't. Yeah.
It's too much. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole entire Cowboys organization. Even if they are fun to watch or whatever, it will forever be tainted because they get so many things that happen over the years that just get under my skin, and I can't with them.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Claire, I didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself in the beginning. Tell everybody out there who you are. You're one of my sisters at NFL Female, and give a plug to the podcast and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been kind of taking a hiatus. My job is just, like, not allowing me to participate in extracurriculars like we're doing this recorded on a Saturday morning because Mondays I'm head deep in a 50 call block of cold calling at work. So, yay me. Anyway, NFL Female, that's fun. Sisterhood is rocking over there with all their articles, their teams, and, of course, I kind of rep the Texans, but I'm kind of low-key right now. Also do some help at the State of the Texans podcast, or not podcast, State of the Texans website. We do just basically Texans coverage. I don't do a whole lot of writing over there, but I do edit some of the more high-profile articles, so not all of them. If there's a grammatical error, you can rest assured that I was not on the case of that one. But, yeah, and so that's pretty much what we do. I'm at the ClaireBear23 on the Twitter, so, yeah, hit me up.
And Claire just hooked me up with one of my new favorite Texans. Pat, is that his name, Pat?
Yeah, Pat D. Stat.
Yeah, so thanks for that. I'm enjoying following here. Yeah.
He's really cool.
All right, Claire, thanks so much. Have a great Saturday.
You too, Sharona. Thanks for the time.
All right, bye-bye.
Sabu.
All right, that was Claire Mullins, my sister, one of my sisters in crime at NFL Female. Such a pleasure to talk to her. I miss her so much. I need to have her on the show more. She's busy. We're all busy. So I always feel fortunate when I get an opportunity to sit down and have a discussion with smart, awesome, badass women like Claire. Can't thank her enough for that interview. Yeah, the AFC South, whew, it is putrid. It is poopy. It is awful. It looks like it's the Colts' year. It's, really hard to believe in them. They're not playing all that well themselves. But, again, the AFC South is so bad that it seems pretty clear that they're going to probably come out on top of that. So next up is someone else that I admire greatly, that I admire so much. She's smart. She's so on top of things. She's so bright, and she hustles more than really anybody that I know. So we're going to have Vashti Hurt, the owner and proprietor of Carolina Blitz. If you haven't checked out her website, what are you doing? Definitely check it out because she was on top of the Great Party Rap video a year ago. You guys didn't know about it. She knew about it. She was posting it. She was tweeting about it. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, my interview with Vashti Hurt. Stay tuned in. You're listening to Back Talk with Sharona.
What you gonna do with all that junk inside your trunk?
All right, good morning and welcome back. You're tuned in and listening to Back Talk with Sharona. I'm your host. My name is Sharona. And as promised, this is the second of the two interviews that I did on Saturday. As it turned out, Vashti and I weren't able to do a show, which I was really kind of disappointed about, but it was mostly my fault. Friday was just kind of a bad day for me for a lot of reasons that you're going to get. You'll find out a little bit towards the end of this segment, a little bit about why and kind of the frustration that I have been having. And but it's going to turn out because I did want to talk about Katie Nolan and her Greg Hardy segment, and I can always count on that side, I think, to keep it real with me and to check me if I need to be checked. And so it's going to turn out really well. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'm with That Side Hurt, who co-hosts Game Over with That Side and Sharona with me on Fridays, and whose website, Carolina Blitz, is doing really well. So I'm so happy that she could join me. So thanks, That Side.
Thanks for having me, Sharona.
Well, I really appreciate it. We were doing pretty well, trying to get back on a good. I'm sorry, my dog is in the background having a little fit. On a good schedule with the show, and hopefully we'll get back in on Friday. But let's start with before we turn to sports media and women in media and the Greg Hardy thing. Let's talk a little bit about the Panthers. Speaking of Greg Hardy, and he's no longer with the Panthers, a good season. They're still undefeated. They're on a bye this week, right? And so they get an extra week to get healthy. They really needed this week to rest up. Jonathan Stewart still a little bit dinged up. Give us your thoughts on the first quarter of the season.
Well, obviously, it's great being 4-0. The Panthers haven't been 4-0 since the 2003 season, and
wow.
Extended fans, we remember that's the year that the Panthers actually went to the Super Bowl. So it's very encouraging to have the team go 4-0, and everyone here is excited about it. I think that the one thing that people are really getting sick of hearing is that, oh, well, Panthers are the worst of the undefeated teams, and they haven't really played anybody. And it's important to remember, this is the National Football League. We're not talking about Pee Wee football. We're not talking about, some type of humdrum league. This is a National Football League filled with the best players in the world, and every week is going to be tough. It's not going to be a walk in the park. And so I think that's one of the things that has put kind of maybe a damper on it for the fans, but probably helped serve as fuel and motivation for the players, because when you're undefeated and you still aren't getting the respect you feel like you deserve, then you kind of feel like you have to go out there and fight for it. And so it's great. It's great, and big challenge for respect. Not this weekend, Panthers are on a bye, but next weekend when they face the Seahawks in Seattle. So maybe if they win that one, people start believing that this Carolina team is for real.
Yeah, I had this conversation. It's so funny how this show, the themes seem to be interwoven in all of the shows that I do. I had this conversation on Thursday, which kind of led to me wanting to talk about Katie Nolan and domestic violence. I understand that that's a conversation. I guess I had missed that because I had been saying that of all the undefeated teams, I felt like the Atlanta Falcons were the weakest. So I had this discussion on Thursday with someone. I was doing a podcast and talking about it. I don't view the Panthers as the worst of the undefeated teams. I think the Falcons are the weakest. So it's kind of funny to hear, funny, a little ironic to hear, people talking about that when it's not something that I had ever really considered. I mean, I think Cam Newton is playing so fantastic. Not to take anything away from Matt Ryan, but I think the Panthers have a better defense, and Cam Newton's just playing lights out. And I think that there's a better team, but that's just maybe I'm biased. I don't know.
I think you look at the Falcons, and they've played the Texans, right, and they've also played the Saints. So they've already played the Cowboys. Panthers play the Cowboys later on, but they've been challenged in pretty much all of their games, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe this last one. I think this last game that they really dominated. And who their opponent was escapes me. But, you know, they've been up and down. The Falcons have been up and down with their play. They almost lost that game to the Cowboys. They kind of turned it on at the end. So, yeah, I think any team that's undefeated at this point deserves a certain amount of respect. And why does it have to be, who's the worst undefeated team or who's the best undefeated team? If you don't have any losses, then you got to be decent.
I agree. No, I definitely agree with that. And a lot of, when you're looking at teams that haven't won, like the Detroit Lions, they've had a tough schedule. Their first 4 games, not that they're good, but, you look at their schedule in the first 4 games that they played, and you're like, wow, that's, that's a tough way to, I think 3 of those games were on the road and against tough teams. And, of course, they just lost a heartbreaker to the Seattle Seahawks. So, and every team's different. It really is hard to make those comparisons and to make generalizations like that in the National Football League. I would agree with that.
Yeah, the Lions got shafted against the Seahawks.
Oh, my God. Absolutely.
And, I was just like, at what point, the Seahawks have been a very lucky team, and at what point does that luck kind of run out? I hope it's next weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah. The Seattle Seahawks are a different football team without without Cam Chancellor. That is, that's undeniable. You can't escape that. But speaking of Cam Newton, working on my first quarter awards article, and I was soliciting suggestions from the Twitter sphere about who's the most valuable defensive player, who's the MVP, and who's the worst owner, and things of that nature. And I got a couple of Cam Newton for MVP votes, as well as a Josh Norman for most valuable defensive player vote, which I think tells you a lot about where the Panthers are right now.
Exactly. And, the MVP stuff, that's been a lot of talk about Cam being MVP, and that's good. I don't ever like to think about that stuff. It's still, 4-0, great, but it's still really early. But if you think about it, really, I don't know what quarterback has done more with less. I mean, Cam Newton doesn't really have. Their receiving core would probably be all backups on any team that had any, semblance of a strong receiving core with Pedgan and Philly Brown and Britton Burson. Most people don't even know who these guys are.
Yeah.
And starting off the year without Calvin Benjamin, people already counted out the squad. And Cam Newton said from day one that he had faith in his team, but I don't think it was faith in his team. I think he had faith in himself. But you got to be modest, And Cam Newton is an extremely talented player, and he's growing. This is, I think, his fourth or fifth year. He's grown, he's maturing, and he's making better decisions with the ball. One of his knocks was that he just wasn't an accurate passer, and he didn't make the best decisions, and he's been better with that, and he's just really been a great leader for the squad. And so I don't see anybody else, if you had to look at who meant the most to that team, and you got to give, if you're thinking about MVP, you have to look at a team that probably has an undefeated record. And you have Aaron Rodgers. He's awesome. He's awesome. But he also has some pretty darn good receivers. And so, if you look at if you're doing most valuable to their team, Cam has to be. I think it was between Cam and Rodgers, and Cam has done more with less than I think anybody in the league has so far.
Yeah, it's very hard, and right now I'm leaning toward Aaron Rodgers for a lot of different reasons, but I agree. And Cam is having a fantastic year. Nobody knows that better than me because I took a lot of flack. I drafted Cam Newton in several. He's my starting quarterback in like 3 of my fantasy football leagues, and I only have 6 or 7 where I actually set lineups, and he's one of my starters. And people are like, but he's just fantastic, just absolutely fantastic. And so you can't deny what he's been able to do. And they are in their own right. They're both very, very, very valuable to their team, and so it's definitely pretty amazing. I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I've been wanting to talk to you about this because you are so familiar with the Panthers, and it's an interesting conversation to me. There was Cam Newton came out and said that after a call that he didn't get that he felt like he should have gotten, he asked Ed Hockley why he didn't get the call, and allegedly, according to Cam, which I believe Cam, by the way, Ed told him that he wasn't old enough to get the call, and there was a report. Now there's a report, I think it came out yesterday or the day before, indicating that there was another young quarterback had said that Ed Hockley told him the same thing. And I'm curious, first of all, what you think about that situation, and second, do you have any thoughts on who you think the other quarterback might be? Because I do.
First of all, I believe Cam. I don't think that's anything that you just don't make up that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Sometimes you can think,
exactly.
Okay, but I don't see a guy making up the fact that we would say, "Oh, you're not old enough to get that call." And then if you look at the tape, his reaction was genuine. It wasn't like, "Oh no, you didn't get hit out of bounds." It was like, dude, I can't believe what just came out of your mouth. And so I believe Cam. And, who else may have said that? Maybe a Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe, I can see that guy getting a call. I rewatched that a couple of times. That with Tom Brady. Tom Brady,
he gets the call.
Breathes on. He gets called. If that would have happened to Tom Brady, they would have run still flags. And guys are penalized, quarterbacks are penalized. I guess maybe it's younger. I think some refs, may look the other way because a quarterback may be more athletic and more mobile. But that's not right. I mean, you shouldn't be penalized for being athletic. You shouldn't be penalized for being able to scramble well. If it's a late hit, it's a late hit. And we've seen over the course of this season, and we see every year, when it comes to how the officials need to be held accountable when, something isn't right. And I don't know, there wasn't really a formal investigation as to what happened because nobody was mic'd up. But maybe you shouldn't just brush it off, It's just, if I had to think about, who else somebody would have said based on your question, like you said, maybe a Bridgewater.
Yeah, we were talking about this on Twitter. I was talking with some other Panthers fans yesterday on Twitter. I hate that. I don't mean to suggest that you're just a fan. I mean, obviously you're media and you cover them. But we were speculating about who it might be, and Teddy Bridgewater came up, Russell Wilson came up. I just don't know whether Russell Wilson or Teddy Bridgewater would, first of all, whether Ed Hockley would say that to them. Secondly, whether they would even actually tell anybody. That's just my impression of those two guys. Who I thought it might be is A, either Colin Kaepernick, or B, RG3. Because there was no indication of when that happened. And I can totally see that being said to Robert Griffin III, who's taken some very severe hits and has not gotten that kind of flag like we were discussing.
Mhm. Yeah, I can see that. I don't think Russell Wilson would get that call. Just because, you have to remember he has won a Super Bowl. And that puts you in a different type of class, whether it's warranted. I never tasted any of that Russell Wilson Kool-Aid. I said no thank you while everybody else was drinking it, and I'm sticking by that. But if you are a quarterback and you lead your team, you are the quarterback on a Super Bowl championship team, that puts you on another level, and that's another I think, level of respect that you probably get from officials.
Yeah.
I never thought about a Kaepernick, but yeah, I think maybe I can see definitely a Kaepernick. RG3, I don't know, but Kaepernick definitely.
Yeah. So I don't even know that Russell Wilson would ever, question that kind. It's weird to me. He's a different cat. There's no question whatsoever. So the NFC South, very bad year last year. They've got two teams right now undefeated. The Saints are horrible, and then you've got the Saints, Patriots. Oh, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're not much better than the Saints, really. Would not shock. I'm watching the Lovie Smith situation. Maybe Jameis Winston will save him. Probably, maybe get another job. I think, or not another job, another year. I don't think that. I wonder whether his job might possibly be in danger. But it's definitely still a division that is struggling. And I'm really surprised how badly the Saints have been.
Yeah, I actually, when I looked at everything, and given the division, I expected it to be much better. I thought that the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints would be really good teams. I expected Tampa Bay to have issues. I think that, they're still going through some growing pains with Lovie Smith, and also when you have a rookie quarterback, you really can't expect too much. So I didn't expect Tampa to make any noise. I thought that the Saints, when I picked my winner of the division, I picked the Saints because I didn't want to seem like a homer, and I'm not. And I can look at things.
No, you're not at all.
Yeah, I can look at things from an unbiased perspective. And I said, okay, well, the Saints have Drew Brees. They can have that high-powered offense. I think low-key they're missing Jimmy Graham.
Yeah.
I think they're missing Jimmy Graham. And that trade always was, weird to me.
Yeah.
Because it's weird to me, and it seems like, Jimmy Graham was a man in New Orleans, and now, you don't hear his name much while he's in Seattle. I wonder if New Orleans is really regretting doing that, because you don't take the top receiver.
In Seattle, because their offensive line is bad right now. They're really missing the guy that they traded away, their guard. Or was it the center? Oh, I think it was the center. So, yeah, it was a weird trade. I completely agree.
It was weird, and I think, they're probably feeling it the worst, and feeling it the most. And so, I would not have ever expected them to still be trying to get a win. I definitely wouldn't have expected that. But, you have Atlanta and Carolina at the top, and then you have, Tampa Bay that I think has maybe won one game, and the Saints. But it's still early.
It is.
You can turn around the likelihood of it, even though it's not that high. You can go on losing streaks. Trust me. I remember last year the Panthers won the first 2 or 3 games, and then they didn't win another game until November, I believe. So losing streaks happen. Who knows what the NFC South will look like, but it's sad to see what used to be one of the NFL's strongest conferences now be the strongest, you know what I mean, be one of the weakest.
Yeah, no, I completely Yeah, I agree. It's everything's cyclical, and if New Orleans wasn't so inexplicably bad, I think that they would be. They kind of would be back to where they were before. And, it's the Saints being so bad, I think, that really kind of drags the conference down. And it's because people just don't expect that. It is sort of inexplicable. Someone asked me, I did a podcast, and someone asked me if Sean Payton might be in trouble. I don't think so. I think that, we're seeing, it happens, right? Old Man Time's undefeated. Although Old Man Football's been having a big comeback this year. DeMarcus Ware, right now, we didn't talk about Josh Norman. I have DeMarcus Ware as my most valuable defensive player, but Josh Norman is in that discussion. I don't know where I'm going to come out, on that. But there's some older guys that are playing very well, and but Drew Brees is not one of them. And I think that if nothing else, Sean Payton will get a chance to draft his guy and have at least a year or two with his replacement, Drew Brees' replacement. So I think that we're 3 or 4 years away from seeing the Saints clean house. Don't you think so?
Yeah, eventually they're going to have to. Drew Brees has been in the face of that franchise for a while, but all good things come to an end, and maybe it's about that time for the Saints to start over. And I can't see them getting rid of Sean Payton. Like, Sean Payton is that franchise. And when you think of the Saints, you think about him and the fact that he brought that team or that fan base a Super Bowl championship after being disgraced for so long. I think that organization and the community has a lot of loyalty when it comes to him. And so he's going to have some time to turn it around. Lovie Smith, like you were saying, I think this could be his last year. Yeah. Or they may give him one more year. But he moved. He got rid of a lot of old folks that were in Tampa. He brought in, some players that he was familiar with from the Bears, and it's just not working.
It's not. I agree. It's not working, and teams have his defense figured out, and we've seen that over and over. And it was actually Marcus Mariota actually came out after the Titans put the whooping on them in week 1, and so they knew exactly what they were going to be doing on defense. And so, you got to be willing to change it up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit before we get to Greg Hardy and the last topic that I wanted to talk to you about. You're in Carolina. You cover Duke in North Carolina. Both teams that with college basketball right here. Both teams are in the news. Give us a little preview, and what do you expect from them?
I'm so excited about college basketball. Y'all just don't have any idea. Operation Basketball is coming up on the 29th of this month, so I'll be there covering ACC's Basketball Media Day. North Carolina, with the return of a lot of their key players from last year, Bryce Johnson, Marcus Page, they are the favorite to go to the Final Four, and I can see that happening. But I'm not, it's just so tough in college basketball. And Marcus Page was hurt for a lot of last year. We never really saw the guy. He never really blossomed like we wanted to see last season. And so this year a lot will be put on his shoulders as the captain and as somebody who was expected to lead this team to the Final Four last year. Duke, of course, you guys know, I've been following Duke since high school, and they've got, last year they won with 3 phenomenal freshmen, and this year they have the top class again. And Coach K seems to have the ability to get the best out of his players. So he has great players, and then he has role players who know their role. And these are guys who know they're probably not going to the league. They're not going to have these superstar careers, but they play hard and they complement their stars well. And, Coach K is the GOAT. And so I think it'll be I think Duke and North Carolina will be, two tough teams to beat, regardless in these situations. So, it's going to be with everything that's going on in Louisville, with Pitino, and, the ACC in college basketball is going to be pretty awesome this year.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and I can't wait for it to start too. And it's right around the corner. The NBA training camp opened last week, and a lot of buzz around. A lot of teams there. Taught some NBA basketball with your friend Nick Simmons, and we had a chance to talk some college basketball too, and so it was nice to get back into the basketball game. But I did for sure mention to him that I was in no way, shape, or form the expert here. That I bowed to your expertness in this area. It's definitely your territory. So Greg Hardy's back in the news. He's served his suspension, and he came off his suspension and had his first tilt with the media, and had some rather interesting things to say. And then it came out this morning. I have not seen his rap video, but I'm aware that there is a rap video out there that he has starred in and produced. Have you had a chance to see it yet?
You guys, see, this is crazy. If you pay attention, I posted stuff from that rap video months ago.
Oh, yeah?
This is not new. This rap video, the words, the lyrics, the songs, none of this is new. This is like before.
All right. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties, but Bassai is back, and she was we need to check her website more carefully. That's the moral of this story. So you've known about this for a long time.
Yes, I've known about this video. I've known about the song. I known about it since last. So when you cover a team, when you have a guy that's on your team, you know certain things, you can see certain things, and I think that now that Hardy has issues, and now he's on quote unquote America's team, people are paying more attention to him. But this stuff is not new. How he acts is not new. When I heard his comments, I was like, oh, that's so Greg Hardy. Like it didn't say, because that's him. And if you ask old teammates, if you ask people who've been around him, I've been around him in the club before. I've talked to former teammates about him in the week of the domestic violence case that went on last season. And what they'll all say is, he can play football, but it's crazy. He's a few screws short. But you can't want this guy who goes into this cracking persona and rushes back like crazy and gets all of these sacks and then say, we need you to just turn that off and just be this humble guy when you get off the field. Most people aren't able to do that. The ones who are really talented can do that. But most people aren't able to do that. And so, Greg Hardy is just being, and I got, I didn't really see Katie Nolan's piece because my schedule was stupid crazy. But I saw a lot of backlash with people saying that, he didn't seem apologetic, and he didn't seem full, and a lot of people questioning him and his how he was interacting with the media. But then my question is, if he doesn't feel like he did anything wrong, or if he didn't do anything wrong, we don't know what happened, then what does he have to be apologetic for? The situation that occurred, most people aren't going to apologize over that. I don't know. It's a touchy subject, but it's just, I don't know what you would expect from him. I know that he's apologized to his teammates here in Carolina, which it really affected the most. So, I don't know what the media, I don't know what some media members expect from him as a football player.
Let me take those two in reverse order. Personally, I don't. Well, first of all, let me back up even further and say you aren't the only media member to say that about Greg Hardy. Trying to think of the gentleman's name because I get James Jones and Jason Jones in the National Football League.
Jonathan
Jones. Yeah, thank you. And I was like, I'm going to get him mixed up with those, but just because I'm so bad. Vashti knows how bad I am at names. So he was saying almost exactly the same thing that you're saying and was linking people to articles. For me, I didn't necessarily expect him to apologize, but I also didn't expect him to go full douche either and be all, bring me Tom Brady's wife, bring me Tom Brady's sister, and I'll bring all her friends too. If he wants to play the heel role, I suppose that's fine, and that's certainly his prerogative, but he's got to understand that he's going to get a lot of backlash over that. The second thing is back to the Katie Nolan thing leads me into, and I've been wanting to talk to Vashti about this. We talk about cultural appropriation on this show, and I'm so fortunate to know Vashti because she's an awesome person, and she's so smart, and she's so good at what she does, but she's also introduced me to other women who are awesome, and I've had Simone Bridges and Natasha Paul, who I met through Vashti, on my podcast, and we've talked about this, but I haven't had a chance to talk to Vashti about it, so I'm extremely happy to have her on the show this morning because one of the reasons why I was a little discombobulated yesterday is because Thursday, and this is why we're talking about Katie Nolan, domestic violence, and I wanted to talk about cultural appropriation because I think I finally maybe sort of kind of get it, you guys. So Thursday, everybody's obviously talking about Greg Hardy, and Katie Nolan does her little 3-minute, heavily produced segment on her show, Garbage Time. And as typically is the case when a pretty white woman says something, that people are talking about, you see this a lot in sports media. They love to jerk off to things that pretty white women say. And so we had the circle jerk over Katie Nolan's comments. Well, Katie Nolan is all in the business of sound bites and money. What Katie Nolan does is for Katie Nolan's career. And so I was enraged on Thursday that because Katie Nolan is talking about domestic violence, she's getting, all of this attention. And I was like, you know what? I should not feel this way. But on the other hand, this is a real thing. And I told Vashti, I want to talk about pretty white women's privilege. When pretty white women say things, it gets attention. And I think I can kind of understand maybe a little bit. Vashti, check me if I'm wrong, but is this a little bit like what black women feel when they see Kylie Jenner wearing her cornrows and it gets all of these attention, even though that's a black girl thing? All right, we're back. So technology won't let Vashti and me be great this morning.
Oh, my gosh.
And apparently the boss just did something incredibly bad because I'm getting my phone is blowing up with people going, only the boss could do that. I don't even know that I'd want to know. Of course, they're playing Georgia this afternoon, and in my next segment, I'm going to be talking to Jennifer Eakin, Georgia fan, about that game. So I was on a roll, and here's the thing, and, you know, that guy knows this. I try to be supportive. I really do. I'm down for the cause. I think it's great when women get opportunities. But as a survivor and an advocate, it pisses me off to no end to watch Katie Nolan, who's only about sound bites and her career, getting all the attention when there are many women out here who have been advocating, who've been through it, who we've talked our ears off. We've talked your ears off. We've done it when it wasn't popular to do it. But because of pretty white girl privilege, Katie Nolan gets all the attention for it. And it was like an epiphany for me last night. And I don't want to equate that in any shape, form, or fashion to what black women have had to go through. I can't relate to that. I'm not black. I know I'll never know what that's like. But I was like, is this sort of kind of how it feels to watch Kylie Jenner get all the attention for her braids when black women have been rocking that shit for years?
It's exactly the same thing. And it's kind of like, you know, it's this whole damsel in distress syndrome. That's what I equate this whole, you know, the fact that Katie Nolan says something and everybody just is in such uproar. You know, you get so used to it at this point.
You do.
I mean, even in society now, you have, like you said, Kylie with the braids, and now everybody was like, oh, wow, that's so fashion forward, when we've been doing that for centuries. This is not that's not anything that's new. Everybody now who wants the big butts and the big lips and the tanning, it's like, to me, it's like you want all of these beautiful features, and I'm speaking as a black woman right now.
Right.
You want all of these beautiful features that I've been blessed with as a black woman, but you don't want to know my struggle as a black woman. You dare not be associated. You dare not really, you know, you don't want to claim yourself. You don't want to be a black woman, but you want to have all the good perks of a black woman. You want to have the nice booties that are in style now. You want to have the full lips that are in style. You want to take our hairstyles and then use them on yourself, and then now all of a sudden you're fashion forward. And, you know, cultural appropriation has been happening for years. We just don't see it in women. We even see it on Twitter a lot. How many companies get thousands of retweets now because they say something that has been affiliated with hip-hop? Whether it's IHOP saying pancakes are going up on a Tuesday, or some corporation who would never say anything about on fleek saying something is on fleek, or, you know, it's something, and I guess, you know, in order to stay hip and cool, honestly, mainstream media has always taken trends from the black community. It's been happening in the form of music. It's been happening in the form of fashion for decades. Like, I saw, I think it's Balenciaga or something like that. I don't know if that's how you, Balencia, I don't know. I'm not a label person.
Yeah, I'm not either.
There's this really expensive label. They were selling these slippers. They called them wedding slippers. They were selling them for like over $1,000. These are the same like mesh slippers with little ornate decorations on the top that we used to get out of the hair store for $1 years and years ago. And now they're bringing them back in white and saying how, oh, this is the new trend in wedding shoes. Like, so at this point, it's sad, but I'm used to it. And sometimes it really bothers me, and sometimes it doesn't. But, yeah, I would have to say it is the same thing. And, you know, Sharona, you've been passionate and very outspoken about domestic violence from the very beginning, And when you have somebody like Nolan who probably really doesn't care,
that's my thing. I don't think
she doesn't really care
one shit about domestic violence or domestic violence victims.
No, she doesn't care.
Real recognize real, Katie. And if it were your career or this issue. It'd be your career over this issue any day, every day, just like Michelle Beadle. But for me, it's real. You know, for me, it's real, and Jennifer knows I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this to Vashti, and I'm going to say this at the end of the show, too. I mean, I want to know what Katie Nolan's price is. I want to know what the price of my pain and my bruises and my busted eye socket are. I mean, what's the going rate for that, Katie?
Fame and fortune, Sharona, and you know, it's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but
yeah, see, that's the other thing. You know, you get asked, well, it's good that it's being publicized, right? And that's the dilemma, right? I mean, that anytime you have a white woman say something that brings, like we saw this with one of those award shows when some white women were speaking up about pay equality in Hollywood and things of that nature. But even that reeked of white girl privilege. You remember all of that?
Mhm. Yeah. I think it had to do with, is it Viola Davis? She gave her speech, and the lady was like, "Oh," she kind of shunned her speech. But when another white actress was talking about equality and how women are treated in Hollywood, she was praised. It happens all the time, and you know, it's 2015, and sometimes I don't know if this country is in a better spot than it was in 1952. So.
Yeah, I don't know either. I really don't. Vashti is always, I missed talking to you yesterday, but I'm so glad that you were able to do this interview and talk to me today about all of these issues. Tell everybody out there where they can find you, and I promise to do better about visiting your website.
It's okay. Yeah, guys. Sharona, again, thanks for having me. I'm so glad. You always think of such great topics, so I appreciate that. Yeah, Vashti Hurt, V as in Victor, ASHTIHURT is Twitter. CarolinaBlitz.com is the website. So if you want to hear this rap song or see pieces of the video that I posted last year, but nobody was making any noise about it, now they're making noise about it, then go check it out. And some of the other things that me and a couple of my great writers contribute. So, yeah, thanks, Sharona, for having me. Hopefully we get to do a game over sometime this weekend.
I hope so, too, and I'm definitely going to tweet out the article and let everybody know that they stay sleeping on your website and that they need to do a better job of getting out there, too. All right, have a great day. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Sharona.
Bye-bye. All right, shout out to Vashti Hurt for that interview. She's awesome, isn't she? Claire and Vashti are both so awesome. But we're not done with awesome yet. We have Jennifer Eakins is up next. Jennifer is our Denver Broncos correspondent. We talk a lot of SEC football here, and big game over the weekend. I almost feel bad, almost sort of, but not really. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Jennifer Eakins, we're going to talk about Tennessee, Georgia, SEC football, the Broncos, and Peyton Manning. So stay tuned in. All right, that, of course, Taylor Swift's Bad Blood. I was joking with Jennifer on Saturday. We pre-record here, but we don't, ordinarily, we don't preview things. We're not like, I'm going to say this, you say that. Jennifer and I were having a little bit of a discussion about Georgia, the Georgia-Tennessee game, and in the show, and so she does know a little bit about me getting all in my feelings over the weekend. It started on Thursday, and why I wanted to talk about Katie Nolan. And Jennifer doesn't agree with me, you guys, so I'm happy to have more than three, but on this show today, three awesome women who keep it real, who are so smart, who are so great, but who I know will check me if I need checking. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning to you.
All right. We got to talk about it. I would feel bad, Jennifer, except you don't even know. I don't even remember the last time Tennessee won a big SEC game.
Yeah, unfortunately, I remember a lot of times that Georgia loses big SEC games. So, Tennessee specifically, I don't actually remember. I don't know the exact, record and when the last time was. But, this is such a familiar pattern, unfortunately, for me and the rest of us Georgia fans out there. And I just had, and I think we even discussed it before, I just had kind of a bad feeling going in. We both kind of tried to justify going in about why our team was going to lose. So I guess I won that battle. But, being a Georgia fan for as long as I have, I just know. I mean, they just lose these games, and it's like, doesn't matter how the season starts out, they're going to end up, either losing to Florida and or someone else. And you know how it is. I mean, with college football, you lose one game, you're basically out anyway, And so after last week's Alabama loss, it was already kind of like, all right, well, this season's done. And then now it's like, forget it, and I don't know what. It's just so frustrating. But at the same time, not surprising. I mean, you have to, as a Georgia fan, you have to kind of, you expect it. And then if they actually win, you can be happy. But, you'll kill yourself, with mentally if you don't plan for the loss, because we all know it's coming.
Well, I was not at all confident, and I'm sitting here thinking back to our conversation and laughing. Listen, Butch Jones has done some good things for the Tennessee program, don't get me wrong, but he's come under fire for some of his coaching decisions, and I told Jennifer before the game that he couldn't coach his way out of a paper bag. But I'm going to have to say that, I thought, overall, generally speaking, it was a pretty good game plan, but I was not at all confident that Tennessee would pull this out. I very, very, very judiciously tweeted on Saturdays. And Jennifer knows this. As it turns out, I did the two interviews with Claire and Vashti. I didn't have a chance to tell Vashti this. Not only did I go to bed early on Friday night because I was just exhausted, first of all, from getting all up in my feelings. And last week was kind of crazy and very busy, and we'll talk about the podcast that I did here in a few minutes. So I went to bed early Friday night, but I was up early Saturday morning preparing for the show, and I interviewed Claire. Well, I took a nap. Like right before Vashti and I did our interview, I had to lay down and take a nap. So I woke up, I did the interview, and as I'm interviewing Vashti, my phone starts blowing up. I'm like, because the game had just started, I was doing the interview and not watching. I was like, holy crap, it's either something good or something bad. And so I just peeked at my phone real quick, and sure enough, it was something bad. And I'm like, I don't even know. So I was very judiciously tweeting on Saturday because the tequila started flowing as soon as I actually during the interview. And but it was a good game. It went down to the wire. I have to tell you, I'm very, very, very sorry about your running back, though. What is the latest on him?
Yeah, he's definitely out for the season. I haven't really checked because I was busy with NFL yesterday. But I know after it happened, there was some discussion of potential career ending. So hopefully that's not the case. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what the diagnosis ended up being. It's funny, like you said, you took a nap, and I ran out to Home Depot. And I was on my way back in the car with my son, and my phone started blowing up, and I was like, what? And I stopped at a light, and all I saw, like, 5 texts were like, Chubb out, and I was like, oh, no, I had no idea, and I got home, and, luckily a lot of people via social media and, my phone had told me, don't watch it if you didn't see it. So I never saw the injury because I heard it was gruesome and horrible, and so I made that conscious decision to not look at it. It's tough. 2 years in a row, they lose, a really good running back. Luckily, Georgia does have depth. That's probably the only area they have it at running back. And Sony Michel, is great. Whether he can carry the team the rest of the season, I don't know about that. Right. But, they do have depth there. I think, the quarterback position is just, Lambert is just not, he's just not good enough. I'm going to be honest, he's not. And he can't pull off the plays that he needs to, and unfortunately, that's really. Granted, there's a lot of other issues and weaknesses in this team, but I think starting out at quarterback, he's just not where he should be for an SEC quarterback, and in that and he transferred from Virginia, and he had a few decent games, and we thought, okay, maybe he'll be able to do this, but it's just pretty apparent that he's just not. He doesn't really have the talent to get there. And there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of other issues. There's a lot of defensive issues. And, it's interesting because now you once again have all the, people calling for Rick's job. And, it's tough. A lot of people are very quick to blame, in any situation, very quick to blame the coach. And, I've defended Rick, for the last few years. And I really don't know how I feel about him, to be honest, because, everyone's calling for his head, and it's like, well, really? Like, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say who else are you going to bring in that's going to really, I don't know. It's just been a tough road as a Georgia fan, and it's funny, I was texting with some of my friends, that were in school with me, and it's like, I just want one national championship in my lifetime. Like, is that too much to ask? Just one, and they just, they come close every now and then, but not really, and it's like, especially.
Yeah. When was the last time they won a national championship?
I believe it was with Herschel Walker in the 80s. That was the last one. It was, I don't know, I can't remember the exact. Yeah, I want to say, I don't remember the exact year, but it was the 80s. It might have even been, well, no, I don't remember. But that was it. And they've come close a few times.
Has Mark Richt ever won the SEC?
Let's see, the actual SEC. Yeah, 1 year. I don't remember how many years ago that they went to the Citrus Bowl, and I can't remember. Gosh, yeah, I should know this, but I don't. Yes, but I do believe there is at least. I do believe there was one SEC title, and that was within the last 10 years. I can't remember the exact year it was, though, but they did go to the Citrus Bowl, and they finished. They ended up finishing like 4th, in the national rankings. But, and granted, had it been a time where there was a playoff, you never know, because that was a really good team. I can't remember the exact year, but other than that, there's been some SEC East, and it's frustrating because this year the SEC East is really, seriously, Florida? Like, come on. It's just, there's a couple pieces away, but, forget it now. With 2 losses, it'll never happen. So, that's very much focus to the NFL.
Well, your Broncos are doing really well. We're going to talk about them in a minute. The Mark Richt question, though, is interesting to me. I was talking to another Georgia fan on Twitter after the game, and do you think that Georgia athletics, that Georgia as a university, are they content with 9 or 10 games a season and to just be competitive, or do they want to win it all? I guess that's the question, right?
Yeah, you'd like to think that they want to win it all. You'd like to think that no program is content, with, decent seasons, every year. You'd like to think that. I just don't know if they're willing to kind of start over here. He's been there a long time now. I think he just had his, 15-year anniversary or something. And I think before that, there was a lot of bad coaching that went through there. I mean, when I was there during my my time as a student, we had Ray Goff, who was horrible. I mean, we lost pretty much the whole time I was there, and then they had like Tubby Smith for a little bit, and they had whoever else. I can't remember. My brain isn't working properly today, but there's been a lot of. I know, right? So I think it took a while to get to somebody to where and Rick has had, he's had his moments, but overall, he's a good recruiter, and the players seem to like him. So I just don't know, as an AD, if you can kind of say, okay, let's throw all this away and start over with either someone known or somebody that's not working at another program, or, I think maybe if a big name were to be available that would be interested, I think that would be enticing. But I don't know if they would just start over with a young guy or something. I just don't know. How that process goes, about. I just don't know. I mean, if I were personally AD, like I said, I think it would have to be somebody big that's well proven that was kind of available, or I just don't know if you want to start out with, just a young guy that's maybe had flashes of greatness at a small school. I just don't know if you want to start over really. But I guess we'll see depending on how the rest of the season goes. I mean. It doesn't get any easier schedule-wise, so, there's still some big games left that they're probably going to lose. So, as long as they beat Florida personally, and I don't think that will happen, but you just never know, that's just always.
Florida's a lot better. Florida's a lot better this year than I expected them to be. So far, I'm impressed with their new coach.
Yeah, he was from here, from Colorado State, and, he was great. I mean, everyone loved him out here, and, they were really upset when he decided to leave, which is understandable, obviously, to go to that kind of program. But I knew he was going to have success there, which, frustrated me, living out here, and I knew when he took that job, it was just like a stabbing of my heart, like, great, now I'm going to have to watch him at Florida, improve the program, because, all of us in the SEC are thrilled when Florida's not good, It's a good thing for everyone. But unfortunately, they are much better this season, and right now they're in sole possession of the East. So
if you're sensitive out there, turn your ears off right now because I'm about to say something that is true, but maybe a little raw. Fuck Florida forever.
Yeah, forever. I'm with you.
Right. But but that's kind of course it's early, and there's still a lot more football left to play. But if you're at Georgia or even at Tennessee, even though they're coming off this big win, Florida right now is kind of the poster boy for moving on and getting a good guy in and it being about coaching instead of whatever. But it's a real dilemma because be careful what you ask for. You just might get it, and there you certainly see that with Tennessee, who moved on from Phil Fulmer, and it's taken them. We don't even know yet if they've gotten it right yet. So that's the flip side to it. Is you can move on from a long-standing coach who gets you 9 wins per season and search for that glory, that SEC championship, that national championship. But if you swing and miss, then you're putting your program back, and it's a hard decision. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go ahead and turn our attention to, well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about not just the SEC. The SEC is, of course, interesting because I follow it so closely. But there are a lot of good teams in college football right now. Who do you think has the best team and why?
In college football as a whole, sorry about that. That's a tough question. I should have prepared for that, and I don't really have an answer. I haven't really been paying attention to college football as a whole. I have to be honest with you. I've been kind of, I'm in an NFL kind of, I don't want to say hole because I enjoy it, but like through work-wise, I've been doing so much NFL that I really haven't, been paying too much. I mean, granted, other than, the SEC, and then you have, of course, all you've got all the, I was going to say, I don't know. I mean, I always, I don't know. I really don't have an answer to that question. But
yeah, Ohio State is up there. Obviously, they're the returning champ, and you've got Baylor and TCU.
Yeah.
Very well.
And it's interesting. I did catch a little bit of the Michigan game, and I was actually impressed. My sister actually went to Michigan, and she's 4 years older than me. So when she went to college, I was like 12 or whatever, and they were like the first team I actually ever rooted for as far as college athletics. So I always have a little place in my heart for them. And so it's good to see him doing well, and it's good to see Harbaugh, showing up and doing that thing. TCU surprises me up there as well. And yeah, I know. But yeah, there's a couple of schools I will say, like in the top 10, that definitely surprised me. Like Clemson, I'm shocked to see how well they're doing this year. And same, Michigan State is always up there, and there's not really a ton of surprises, except for really, I would say TCU and Clemson are both kind of shocking, and then you have Utah is actually in the top 10 too, which is kind of interesting as well. And then I'm looking at here at the top 10. Of course, you have Alabama, and of course, they have a loss, and they're still there because that's just them. They'll always be there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting year in college football. I've always enjoyed watching Clemson play, and so I'm happy that they're doing really well. And when they're good, I think that college football is a lot better. And Jim Harbaugh just cracks me up. I mean, I don't know that I would want to play for him, but he's most definitely a great coach, and he's lighting it up in college football right now, and you have to wonder if the 49ers are like, we messed up. So, but let's talk about your Denver Broncos. Very, very good start to the season. It's not been pretty, Jennifer. It hasn't been pretty at all, but it's still undefeated, 5-0, baby, right?
Yeah, it definitely has not been pretty. We should say the offense has not been pretty. The defense has been very, very pretty. The offense is rough. I mean, I was doing a recap this morning and noticed. I mean, they had 43 yards rushing yesterday, like all of them. CJ, Ronnie, like together, 33 yards rushing as a team against the Raiders. It's an interesting season, and it's funny because around town here, you would think they were 0-5, I mean, the sky is falling, and they're undefeated, and that's just the way it is here with fans and the media. People obviously expect a lot more. I think people are really having a hard time with, Manning's regression. People are really, having a difficult time accepting that, his body is not going to perform the way it has been, and unfortunately, it shows. And there's glimpses of Manning, and there's glimpses of decent, passes. But overall, I mean, they're all ugly. I mean, I'm sure, aside from Bronco fans, anyone watching the game is just. I mean, every throw you're just cringing because you just don't know what's going to happen because it's ugly, And I think they're still kind of trying to figure out the offense that's going to work for them. They're still kind of in this weird hybrid between what Kubiak wants to run and what Peyton wants to run, and they're kind of stuck in the middle, and nothing seems to be working, and they're, so far they've been fortunate. They've got an ugly November coming up with, they have Green Bay, they have New England, they have, the Colts, Kansas City, and they have to go to Chicago. I mean, it's not. If they continue the way they are, I just don't, I don't see them, handling the Packers and the Patriots the way that they've been playing. Now their defense is incredible, and they have the best kicker, in the NFL. So those two things are kind of propelling them to victory. But, I mean, last night or yesterday, I guess I should say, I mean, they should have lost that game with every, I mean, Janikowski, who is usually money, missed 2 field goals, which doesn't happen, So they're going to need to figure out, they have to get more offense. I mean, regardless of how it comes down, whether, it needs to happen because they're not going to be able to continue to win games. Now, fortunately for them, the rest of the division, is losing. So they're only a game or two away from really locking the division at this point. I mean, the Chiefs keep losing, and the Raiders are losing. It really depends. San Diego, we'll see what happens tonight. But this team is lucky in that they're pretty close to really kind of sealing off the division already, and they still have a really rough road ahead schedule wise. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens. I mean, I feel bad for everyone that took, fantasy-wise, that took, Broncos offense because they're just not getting it done, not getting it done yards-wise, points-wise, anything, yeah.
I have, speaking of that, fantasy football and Broncos, I do have your kicker and your defense. So I'm very happy with that. On the other hand, and it was auto-selected to me. I wouldn't have otherwise taken C.J. Anderson, but I have him. And I'm so over it. It's just, the struggles there are, right now, Ronnie Hillman is outplaying him a little bit. So look, I want to talk about the schedule real quick, and then we'll talk about individual players. Up next, Cleveland at Cleveland. Cleveland's playing pretty well right now. It's a little, maybe a little bit of a surprise with them. Let's see, they are they're 2-3. Josh McCown has looked really good. They've got some young talent on that team. Then they get a bye, and the November that you're talking about, Green Bay at home. They travel to Indianapolis and play Indianapolis. They play Kansas City. They play Chicago, and then to top off their month of November, they play New England. So that is a tough November. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be. Luckily for them, they do get both Green Bay and New England at home, which helps a bit. But I mean, if you can't produce, if the offense can't produce, it doesn't matter where you are. So those are going to be interesting. And then you've got, Indianapolis, of course. You've got the whole narrative game, Peyton's going home and all that. And that was ugly last year. I mean, that did not turn out well for Peyton last year when he went. So, November is going to be an interesting one. And then you got, December, I mean, it's funny. Like I said, it's like they're 5-0, but you wouldn't think so based on, the chatter around here. You'd think they were 0-5. But, they seem to, I don't know. I've heard the team of destiny used, maybe that's what's happening. Maybe they're somehow going to eke it out and we'll see what happens. But the defense is super, the defense is super fun to watch. I will say that. Because what's fun about it is, I mean, they're so deep and it's different guys making the plays each week. And that's what's, incredible about it. Now, of course, there was a scare yesterday with DeMarcus Ware, which, it appears to be he's okay. They just really called it back.
I'm sorry? I was just about to ask you about him because I'm working on my first quarter awards, and I'm seriously thinking about giving most valuable defensive player to DeMarcus Ware. He's played it so well.
He's been killing it. I mean, he's been playing like he's 25. He's been amazing. And he did leave on a cart yesterday, which is somewhat alarming. But all the reports that I've read, all the reports that I've read today is they're just calling it back spasms.
Good.
So I think he should be all right. I think it's just kind of I'm thinking it's kind of an old man working too hard back problem thing. So hopefully he'll be all right because that's a little scary. And I will say though, the Broncos have a lot of depth at defense, and they, those guys. I mean, that can come right in. But, you don't want to lose, one of the top guys. I know, Miller was out for a little bit yesterday, too, at one point. He came back in, though, so appeared to be fine. And he had a pretty decent game. I mean, overall, the defense, once again, bailed him out, and that's kind of what keeps happening. But, the old adage is defense wins championships. So, at the moment, if they could put together some kind of offense, they should be okay. You think about all the big the big defenses of the past that have won Super Bowls, you just need a serviceable offense. And this offense, I wouldn't even call them serviceable right now. I mean, they're really, really underperforming. So if they can just put something together, they should be all right. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, they're definitely winning ugly right now. I like to ask Jennifer about, I jokingly called the Broncos Tennessee Volunteers West with Jennifer once, and that's kind of stuck with me. But they do have, some former Tennessee Volunteers on their roster, and I want to ask you about Malik Jackson. How well is he playing right now?
He's doing pretty well. I know he's had a couple penalties. He's been playing a little sloppy, but overall, I think he's been playing pretty well. I think that they like him a lot. I mean, he seems to be, he's always out there. So I think, I think they're happy with his play so far this year. And like I said, I know that I happen to notice a couple dumb penalties on him. I can't now. I'm drawing a blank of whether that was yesterday or last week, but I do remember that. But overall, he's. Let me see. I can actually look real quick at what he did yesterday. Yesterday he had a sack. He just had 1 sack and 1 assist and 6 combined tackles. So it's a decent game for him.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see, he is 5th or 6th on the team in tackles. He's got 17 total tackles, 13 of those are solo. He has 3 sacks and 1 fumble recovery. So, and not a season for him so far. Yeah. And I agree. I think your defense right now is what is really keeping, Denver in the game. But, that's, they always, we used to say defense wins championships, and I still think that it's largely true, although, the true test will come when Denver plays the Patriots, correct?
Oh, for sure. And, I will say, back to another, famous Tennessee alumni, I should say. But, Peyton, I kind of feel for him. He's just so overly scrutinized right now. And it's like, I just feel badly for the guy because he just doesn't, he can't really catch a break. I mean, listening to all his press conference and stuff. And he's been great about it. He's his usual self, making jokes. But this has got to be very difficult for him to be knowing that he's on the decline of his career, and it's showing, and it's just, making the throws that he used to be able to make, and now they're getting picked off, and it's just, it has to be really, really difficult, for somebody with a football mind like that to kind of get out there and have it not go his way, and as it has been for the last however many years. So, but I was laughing. It's like between watching the Georgia-Tennessee game and then, first of all, Peyton's on, he's on every commercial as it is, and then he was on a bunch of those Tennessee commercials too, and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot get away from this guy. Anywhere I turn, he's on my TV.
I know, it's ridiculous. Yeah, Peyton, we'll finish up with this. Peyton right now he is 120 of 189. He's thrown the ball 189 times, completed 120 of those. He has a 63.5% completion rating, 1,234 yards. He's averaging 6.5 yards per completion, 231 passing yards per game. Those numbers are down, by the way, from what we're used to. But the real difference is he has thrown 6 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and he's also taken 12 sacks. So numbers aren't pretty. Yeah.
No, the sack thing is tough for him. It has to be because first of all, he's not used to it. Second of all, he's old. I mean, I'm a couple of years older than him, and I can't even imagine get thrown on the ground like that, or even any of that. So yeah. But hopefully they can figure it out. I mean, they have one more game, and then they get a bye week. So hopefully the offense can figure out some way to make something happen.
Yeah,
we shall see.
All right, so let's turn to our kind of hot topic. Talk about being a woman in sports media, the Greg Hardy thing. Let me tell you guys, you sort of gotten a little bit of the story as the show has gone on. So on Thursday, the Greg Hardy thing, and that was revolting. and you're dealing with that, watching people weigh in on how. I said he was an awful person earlier on in the show. It was just a terrible, terrible look for him in his first media interview. And then we had, a lot of other things happen. So I was doing a podcast on Thursday, and as you guys know, domestic violence is something that I've talked about a lot, that I cover a lot, because I have been, as a survivor and as an advocate, it's something that's important to me. So I go to do this podcast, and obviously, Greg Hardy is a hot topic, and so it's probably going to be discussed. So I go into this podcast, and one of the first things I'm asked is, about the Katie Nolan soundbite, which is fine, which is good. I mean, I understand the game, right? I mean, you're going to talk about these things. I'm certainly not saying that you shouldn't talk about them. That is not where I'm coming from here. So I'm in this podcast, and we're talking about this issue, and as someone who's advocated for it for years and years, or against it, actually, and as a survivor, none of my work is ever mentioned. All I'm asked about is Katie Nolan. Oh, wasn't Katie Nolan great in her 3-minute soundbite? And like it or not, I'm being real with you guys. I'm real with you guys. It absolutely just ran all over me. And you wouldn't do it, listen, you wouldn't do a guy like that, right? You wouldn't invite a guy to come on your podcast and talk about someone else's work, right? I mean, you might, but you'd still discuss their work. But this is not what happens to women in media. This is not what happens to us. We get to talk about other people's work, I guess, because our work is not important. So that kind of set me off. And then some other things happened that I'm not going to get into, because I love my buddy Zach, and we're cool. But, it's frustrating that the voices and the work of women who've been advocating so long do get overshadowed. And I know Jennifer has some strong thoughts on that. And Jennifer was checking me on Saturday. Listen, you guys, she was checking me, and she's right to do so, because I understand where Jennifer's coming from. It's good that it's being – it is absolutely a good thing. Jennifer, are you still with me?
I am. I thought I was waiting for you to. I thought you were still going. I'm absolutely with you.
I'm sorry.
No, and yes, you're right. No. I was listening to you. My point. It's hard for me. I will back up for a second, because yes, I am a woman in this industry, but I also am extremely fortunate to never have experienced any sort of abuse, domestic violence, rape. And I'm aware, I'm extremely fortunate, because I know many who have, and I know I don't know the actual numbers, but I know I'm in the minority for sure, as someone who has gone through, 4 decades of life and never experienced any of it. So sometimes there's a part of me that doesn't feel like I'm at liberty, or not at liberty, but, that I should be given, a platform to talk about it. My only real connection with it is being a woman and knowing that it could happen to me, at any time. But I do feel that in this particular instance, there's a lot of chatter here and there about it. But I think this particular soundbite, at first I was like, wow, this is awesome, it's phenomenal. I watched it and I was like, this is great, showed it to my husband, we were like, wow. And then I didn't really think anything of it until you started. So then when you were talking about it, it kind of flipped me a little bit, thinking, well, wow, I never really thought about it from Sharona's side of it, in that who knows how invested Katie really is into it. We don't know what her, her situation is, whether she was just at it for the clicks or for the eyeballs. So I did see your point to a certain extent, but then to me, I think also overall it got a lot of people talking about it, and regardless of how it went down, it did. You know, there were people out there retweeting and talking about the fact that that this garbage guy is actually able to not only play in the NFL, but he's out there just. I mean, it was disgusting. The fact that he didn't even it didn't even take him a half a day to just be right out there with the way he is, and it was disgusting. So I'm kind of torn because I absolutely see your point in that there's people like you out there that have been doing this for years and are, dedicate a lot of their lives to getting out there and speaking about it and trying to make people more aware, and then this girl just comes along and makes a couple minute soundbite. So I do get that point, but I do feel like in the long run, her little cutesy soundbite, actually got people talking and tweeting at Jerry Jones and kind of getting at least domestic violence and abuse, into somewhat of a spotlight and getting people to be like, wait a minute, why does this guy have a job? Like, why is he still here? And not only is he still here, but he didn't learn a damn thing. I mean, he's right back. He didn't even act like any of his suspension phased him or I mean, I don't know if he was forced to do counseling or anything that he who knows, but whatever he did obviously didn't really make a difference. I mean, he's right there. I mean, he's tweeting about Tom Brady's wife. Like, are you kidding me? Like, with it's just. It's amazing to me that it's amazing. Yeah.
What do you think the NFL should do with Greg Hardy?
I don't know, because it's like whatever they did before, obviously did absolutely nothing. I mean, he pranced right back in there like, hey guys, miss me? Here I am, and this is what I'm doing, and I'm not going to change anything. So I don't know if you can completely ban him from work. I don't know if he can not have a job with the NFL. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the protocol is there because they've never really done anything like that. They've had guys just as bad as him, you know what I mean, out there, that are possibly no longer in the league or whatever. But, in the past, they really haven't done much. So I don't know if they need to set a precedent and kind of be like, look, dude, you can't be like this and have a job with this league. But I don't know. What do you think they should do?
I don't think I do not think he deserves to be in the league, nor does he belong in the league. I don't think that there's a place in the National Football League for Greg Hardy. I think this is one of the first times that the National Football League has been confronted with a guy who's just not going to say and do the right thing.
Right.
He's giving a big middle finger to the National Football League, to everyone who has spoken out against him, who has spoken up for domestic violence victims, and it's pretty revolting.
Yeah, it's extremely revolting, and it comes back to the old adage of money versus morals, and I don't think that he's even that. I hate to say like that quality of a player, like physically, but like really, I mean, it's not like he's the stud of the league or anything. Like I think that they, it would be nice if they actually put their foot down and kind of showed guys like, look, we don't tolerate men who act the way that you act and show no remorse for anything that they've done, and we all we're a society of second chances, but this is not one of those situations. He's already been down that road, and here he is again. And, I mean, he didn't even, unfortunately, like Katie said, but he didn't even pretend to, like,
no, he didn't pretend.
No, he didn't even pretend for 5 seconds to have been, remorseful or, rehabilitated in any way. He didn't even pretend. He just came right out like, hey, I'm back, you miss me? And, it's like, actually, no, we didn't.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and I'm very much watching to see what the National Football League is going to do with this situation. Jennifer, it's always Always such a pleasure to have you on, and thank you, as always, for checking me when I need to be checked. Tell everybody out there where they can find you. And you're working on something. What are you working on?
It's funny. I write. Well, first of all, you can find me on Twitter at the Monday Mommy, and I write for a couple ticket sites. So it's like I write game recaps and summaries and pregame stuff. But it's not really under my name or anything, so you can't really find my lovely work. It's just kind of there. So that's actually what I'm working on right now is game summaries from week 5 for the ticket sites. But other than that, right now you can just find me on Twitter at the Monday Mommy. I'm always chatting about something.
All right. Thanks again. Great stuff as always. Have a great day, Jennifer.
Thank you. You too, Sharona. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, that's it for today. Shout out to Claire Mullins, Best I Heard, and also, again, to Jennifer Eakins for joining me this morning. It was a great show, great opportunity for me to get some things off my chest. Shout out to Katie Nolan. I'm just being real, Katie. This is how I feel, and, I'm certainly not trying to hate on your success, but this is what it feels like for a domestic violence victim to sit back and see their words and their work go largely, ignored while your sound bites get all the publicity. So that's what it is. So have a great day. We'll be back on Wednesday. Lisa London's going to join me. My girl Cindy is going to join me. We're going to talk some Major League Baseball. This will be 2 Wednesdays in a row that we've talked some baseball. We're going to talk about the suspension and some of the other things that are going on in Major League Baseball. And we'll find something else interesting, hopefully, to talk about. Have a great day. Happy Monday. You've been listening to Back Talk with Sharona. I'm your host. My name is Sharona. Find me out there on Twitter land at Sports by Sharona, and we'll be back on Wednesday.